Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to be talking about the finale of 4 Minutes. It's been a long time coming. It's been 2 months, and the finale was 2 days ago on Friday. I'm filming this on a Sunday. I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of feelings. I'm going to try and save them until the end, though some of my thoughts, as usual, will kind of be interspersed throughout my reaction recap deep dive. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I write these scripts as I watch the episode for the first time. So that's why a lot of my own feelings are coloring my script. I've thought about watching the episode first and then trying to go back and script after, but there's just no replacement for those raw initial reactions that I have when I'm watching for the first time. And I want to capture those as faithfully as I can, which is why I choose to script as I watch. And that's also part of why it takes so long, because I watch maybe 10 seconds of the episode and then I have to pause and script my thoughts and kind of form them into something cohesive along with sort of analyzing what I've just seen. And I do occasionally go back and will sort of use something that I know now happens later in the episode to clean up my script a little bit. Like if I mention something and then it kind of realizes something that happens later, I'll kind of clean it up from that earlier point and I'll move it, or I'll kind of adapt what I'm saying. But that is sort of my process. And that is why I am so sorry. I think this video is going to be later than usual. I tend to post on Sundays, but I think this one's going to have to go up on a Monday. And after this, I also want to do this again with another show. Like I said, I don't think I will do it with one that is currently airing. And I think I would want to try and film all the episodes before I start posting them. So I might do this with It's a I Told Sunset About You. I have not 100% decided yet, but I think that might be the next series I want to do this with. I'm also considering doing it with Manner of Death, but I'm already partially through It's a, so it would be easier for me to go back, script what I've already seen, and then finish it. It's also a shorter series, so I'd be able to do it faster. But I also want to go back to my usual content of reacting to trailers and pilots and things like that. I've done a bit of this interspersed with this series, but doing this series just takes a lot out of me. If there's any trailers that you guys really want me to react to or anything comes up, please let me know. I think I want to do the Dear Daddy trailer. Someone requested it in the comments, and I would happily do a reaction to it. I've already seen it, but it was a bit ago, so I don't remember a lot of the details. On a slightly unrelated topic, I was also thinking, should we have like a fan name of like people who come here to watch my videos? Should we be like the Dramaholics, like the Dramatics, the Dramatists? I don't know. That's where my brain has been going. I know we're a small group and we're tiny but mighty, and we should have a little name. We should have a little name for ourselves. Anyway, just something I've been thinking about. Totally not related to 4 minutes. I'm very sorry. There will be timestamps. You can skip through all of this. All right, I have almost 20 pages of notes with no photos interspersed yet, so that is quite long. So we might as well just go ahead and get started with my recap, reaction, and deep dive of episode 8. Episode 8 opens on an almost unrecognizable time, inspecting a concerned older woman's back for a lump. His office is small and cramped, but bathed in golden sunlight. He's gentle with the woman and smiles almost constantly, reassuring her that the lump is likely benign, but he will biopsy it just in case. The woman says she was worried because her husband recently died of cancer. Time says he's sorry for her loss and even says her name. He remembered his patient's name, just like Dr. Din chastised him for in earlier episodes. Is this his life as the public hospital doctor, like his surgery residency teacher offered him before? Is this the dreamscape with his grandmother, living in his mind while his body fights to survive? When the woman leaves, his smile falls and the music turns strange. He looks at the clock on the wall of his office. It's 11:02. Is he stuck in the time loop? Like, great. Am I going to have to watch an entire episode of flashbacks as a finale instead of getting any actual answers or progression in the story? I mentioned in the past several episodes since my episode 5 recap, I was getting really frustrated with the fact that we just kept seeing flashbacks and the story was not progressing at all. So even though I was enjoying the episodes and I think they were very well written and the script was well done, I wanted the show to progress and it wasn't. It was just recapping the same events that we'd already seen. And at this point in the finale episode, I was getting frustrated. Okay. I wanted to know, like, where is the story going? I don't want to see the same events over and over. But let's continue. Time is concerned, sitting in the shadow cast by his file cabinet, but calls in the next patient. Another smiling doctor enters, asking, "It's getting late. Any patients left?" Time is confused. Was it not just 11:02 a.m.? He looks at the clock again. It's 3:20. Which, if that's late, I'm like the Queen of Sheba. Maybe I should enter a different profession. Then again, I know doctors have to go to school for a really long time, but like, how long is your workday if patients after 3 p.m. is late? Anyway, we clearly learned from this with the clock glitching. We're very familiar with that. Time is, in fact, stuck in his own time loop. Yay! The doctor asks Time to talk, and then we get our title sequence. The episode returns with Time's teacher telling Time that he is the surgery ward's number one pick to be their next surgery professor at the hospital. I don't really know all the correct terms. I am not in the medical field. I'm just kind of imparting my assumptions based on the vibes of the conversation. Time expresses that he doesn't know if he's suitable, but the other doctor convinces him and he agrees. A very different conversation than the one we got in our timeline, where he said no and that he was going to go work for a private hospital. The older doctor congratulates him and tells him to pick a research topic and then leaves. Will it be cardiac arrest patients? Also, I'm really confused because if it's a teaching hospital, do they have to do research? Do all doctors have to do research? What if you don't want to do research? What if you just want to like treat patients? I don't know. I don't know anything about that, especially not in Thailand. Time's phone rings. It's Nacha. I do wonder what actually happened to her for real, like in the actual real timeline. Did she really leave the hospital and her entire specialty just because she dumped Time? He didn't even dump her, she dumped him. And she like leaves not only the hospital she's working at, but her entire specialty that she's worked for years of her life dedicated to pursuing this, and she just leaves because she breaks up with her boyfriend. I don't even think she's in the same specialty as Time. So it's not like they're going to be constantly in each other's space. Like, yes, they're going to work for the same hospital, and I'm sure they'd see each other in passing. They would probably have to occasionally like cross consult on cases. But like, can't you be professional in a setting where you're going to have to be saving lives? I guess if she can't, it's good that she left. No patients are going to get in the crossfire between them, but like, dang, girl, I guess I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, the scene this time is different. They're on the balcony of the hospital talking to each other, and they're under a very like cloudy, stormy sky with it's hard to describe. I'm going to try and insert a picture. The sky is almost like pink orange and the clouds are gray. They're dark and thick and gray, like a big storm is rolling in. Time apologizes for being busy. Nacha says she understands, saying that he's a surgery resident and yada, yada, yada. Doctor, understand, time consuming, blah, blah, blah. Time thanks Nacha for helping out with his grandma and apologizes for not being there for her more. He says his feelings for her lately haven't been the same as before. Nacha says she's not okay, but she understands, and she's known for a while that things haven't been the same between them. They break up more amicably than I've maybe ever seen two people break up. And Natcha says that she'll still help him out with his grandma and keep bringing her to the hospital for her diabetes appointments. They smile and amicably drink their coffee. Most chill breakup of 2024. He also mentions that he's sure his grandma would appreciate having the same doctor. And that makes me wonder, is Natcha her doctor? Is Natcha like a diabetes specialist? Which again, I guess, like, why would she leave the hospital just because she broke up with Time? Like, they wouldn't cross over crazy often, I don't think. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But from a layperson's perspective, I do not understand. The scene changes to Great in the hospital, rocking that ridiculously low V-neck white shirt and gazing up at a display image of Time that I suppose is advertising him as the newest surgery resident or teacher or whatever the translation of his new title is supposed to be. I don't know. Great requests an appointment with him and is told that the queue is long. I'll wait, he says. Eventually, he gets called into Time's office. I wonder why he so specifically wanted Time. Like, did he hear good things about him? Did he just think he was handsome and want to flirt with the doctor while he's getting his treatment? They don't ever really say, so I guess decide for yourself what you think. When Great walks in and sits in the chair, they make eye contact and Time's pleasant expression falls. Great sits there in all his gorgeousness with his deep plunging V-neck shirt. They stare at each other. Time's expression reminds me of when he and Great locked eyes for the first time in our timeline, when he kneeled down to help Time pick up all the falling papers, and they locked eyes like some fated mate romance novel or something, because Time looks absolutely starstruck. And sweet soulmate vibe piano music starts playing. Doctor? Great asks. I thought for a moment that they knew each other, maybe in a bad way, but the music and Time's jaw just being entirely on the floor make me think that Time just thinks that Great is handsome, which, like, I do too, so I can't blame him. They have a pretty generic doctor's appointment. Great is complaining about stomach pain and insomnia. Time asks questions, except that Time is starstruck every time he looks at Great, and a very romantic piano overture is playing. Great admits he's been stressed, and I wonder what he's getting up to in this timeline. If it's anything like the other two, it's not anything good. Time tells Great to go to the examination table. He does so. Time asked Great to lift his shirt. I assumed this was to check his heart rhythm and stuff, and let me say, as someone who has gone to all of my childhood checkups and been to the doctor a fair few times as an adult, I have never had my vitals taken where I have had to like lift my shirt up. And I don't know if this is because I'm a woman. That might have something to do with it, to be fair. And whenever I've had my heart taken, it's either been over a shirt if the shirt is thin enough, or if I'm wearing a thick sweater or something. The most that will happen is the doctor will go down like the back of the collar of my shirt and listen at my back, or if absolutely necessary, like up under the bottom hem to put the stethoscope against my back to listen. I have never had to lift my clothing to get an examination. I will, to be fair, I did one time. I was having some stomach pain and I did like lift my shirt up to have the doctor like push, which I will give it to Time. That is what he does. He does not check Great's heart rate, which I'm like, I feel like that's kind of a standard doctor's appointment checkup activity. But again, I'm not a doctor. What do I know? But of course, Great has to lift his shirt like all the way up to here. So we get the full display of all of his muscles. It might be unnecessary, but I guess we need the sexual tension. And like I said, Time pushes like on Great's kind of upper abdomen area, like seemingly checking for maybe appendicitis or something like that. Like I said, doesn't even listen to his heartbeat. Time prescribes some antacids and blah, 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 and Great leaves. It's very generic, yet very sexually tense doctor's appointment. Right before Great walks out the door, he looks over his shoulder back at Time and smiles. Time looks once again absolutely starstruck, smiles back, and nods. Great leaves. Time looks confused in his absence, like he knows he should be remembering something, but can't remember what he's forgotten. He looks down at his watch just in time to catch the time switch from 11:02 to 11:03. He checks the analog clock on the wall to confirm the time has in fact changed to 11:03, just like it did for Great, marching ever closer to his 4-minute deadline to brain death in the real world. Time stands up, clearly worried, scared, and confused. The scene changes to Great returning to his apartment. He stares at the hospital bag for a moment and smiles. Back to Time in the hospital, off to take his lunch break. And who is in the waiting room lurking like a beautiful stalker? But Great. Then again, is it really stalking if it's like your place of employment is a public area where anyone is allowed to go and he's not being like super creepy about it? So it's fine. And then we get this shot, which is just delicious. Shots like this, they're obvious, but they're why I knew this show was going to be worth doing these kinds of videos for, because like it's just beautiful. I can't be sure, but in my personal opinion, it looks like Time is in front of the sunrise painting and Great is in front of the sunset. In my experience, sunrises are usually more pastel and the sunset usually has those more bold red colors. And even though you would think the sunrise would be on the left and the sunset on the right, like it would do that, I don't know. I don't quite think that that's what's going on. It also suits kind of like the topsy-turvy vibe of the narrative. It also suits them, in my opinion. Time, who is constantly in blue or black, but that's, we talked about that. And Great is, very strongly associated with orange and red colors along with white. I mentioned in episode 4 that I believe the narrative is giving them their assignments, their sun and their moon assignments as sort of like imagery parallels for us to draw from, with Time as the black sun and Great as the moon. That would also make sense here if Time is the dawn of the day and Great is its end. Are you free this evening? Great asks. The scene changes to a montage of them on a date by the river, chatting and admiring the sky. They hold hands, and I literally, for several seconds, had to stop. I stopped breathing. I like paused. I had my hands over my mouth, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so cute. It was just so cute. I just couldn't handle it. The montage progresses to Great with Time's grandma, helping her around the house, being generally sweet while Time looks on. They cook together, they play guitar, they gaze at each other lovingly, and also with too much sexual tension to handle. Akira interrupts as they're just about to kiss, but as her father's first love, it's acceptable. It's just a montage of them falling in love. It's sweet and gentle and normal. They also put on sunscreen at an indoor pool, which is obviously an ad, but also an excuse to look at JesBible in swimsuits underwater, I guess. We even get an iconic underwater kiss, which is lovely, and I think the OST is playing over it all in like a tragically romantic style. They work out together and they keep kissing, and it's disgustingly sweet, especially since we know it's not real. And their time is limited because of that. Either their lives will end, cut short by the final 4 minutes until they're brain dead, or they'll wake up. Wake up to a world where nothing in their dream state ever happened. But if this is Times and we saw Great, maybe they'll wake up and be just as in love with each other as we hope they are. Even if the real world was too cruel, too final to give them a chance, maybe they can forge their own path through the fires of fate. For maybe the first time, we see Great's insane apartment look cozy and inviting. I don't want to work my shift, Time groans. Easy, Great says. Then don't go. Hey, as my boyfriend, you have to understand my job's demands, Time rebuts, as if he wasn't the one complaining about his job in the first place. I'm just kidding, Great says. No need to be all serious. Great goes to the bathroom and Time lays in his bed, relaxed. Then suddenly, a seemingly familiar voice shouts, Time! The record that's playing scratches. Is that where the sound is coming from? Again, the shout, yes, through the record player. Time! We see a cutscene, the quickest flash of an instant, of someone kneeling in the dirty street in the pouring rain, doing what I assume is CPR to Time. It's so quick, blink and you miss it. I was very lucky that when I paused to start writing my script of this part, I paused on that scene because it is a snap. It is so fast. Is that what's happening to time right now? The clock in his own mind, deprived of oxygen, is slow as a crawl. Has all this time passed since he was first initially shot in the alley? Then time realizes, Den? It's Den's voice. Den trying to save him, to bring time back to the land of the living. Time, come back now. It's not real. Den, possibly the only person in the world who could get through to time since Great is also currently out of commission. Den is the only one with all the puzzle pieces. He's begging time to come back, to wake up, to realize his dream isn't real. And if he can't come back, his body in the real world will die. Time sits up and checks his phone. 11:03. Den's voice continues through the record player. If you don't get out, you're going to die. Don't let the 4 minutes run out. Time checks Great's bedroom clock. 11:03. This isn't real, he asks himself, disbelieving, almost devastated. He and Great aren't real. Their joy, their love isn't real. A drop of water falls on Time's head. He's inside. A raindrop from where his body is fallen in the alley. Den is doing chest compressions, shouting at his friend to wake up. Time rushes to the bathroom door, shouting for Great. Before he makes it, the apartment door opens on its own. Blinding light pours in. Life, the real world, the outside. All he has to do is walk through the door. Caught between dream and reality, he almost goes, then realizes, Great. He can't leave Great. He tries to open the bathroom door, shouting Great's name. It's locked. This is a decision Time will have to make alone, because in reality, he's in his dreamscape alone. Great isn't there with him. Great is locked in his own mind, the reality we saw in the first 5 episodes. Time will have to make his own way out, just like Great will. They can help each other. The thought of them can bring the other strength. But in the end, it's their decision. They have to decide what they want, life or death, reality or the beautiful illusion of a dream. Time pounds on the door, desperate not to leave his love alone, but he's running out of time. The clock says 11:04. He has to go. Great is laying on the sidewalk, blood on his face from his mother's brain splatter. Like the end of episode 5, he hears Time calling for him. Time is pounding on the bathroom door, rain pouring down on him from the ceiling. He's going back. Reality is bleeding into his dream. Can you hear me? Den shouts. Time! Time! The music swells and we smash cut to Time laying in the alley, life returning in an instant. Great, he says with his first breath of new life, suffused with the love cultivated through weeks in a dream. Weeks of falling in love, weeks of second chances. The medical crew lifts Time onto a gurney and takes him back to the hospital. The scene changes to Fa, sipping wine. She looks displeased. Then again, I can't recall her ever looking particularly happy. Fa, Korn says, walking into the room. He still has the healing cut on his neck from being attacked at the bar by Time. I realize at this moment that everything that is happening with Korn has to have been the real timeline, like everything with Tonkla and Win. There's no way Great would have the knowledge to be able to shift events in his dreamscape for things he had no idea about. So everything outside of the Great time dynamic has to have been real. So Korn is supposed to marry Fa. I'm sure he's so happy. Fa, have you talked to my dad yet? Korn asks. My dad says there's nothing to talk about, she says. Immediately, I thought of Time's parents, how Fa's father dealt with them. Swift, cold, and clinical. Nothing to talk about. Korn looks perturbed. Your dad should be able to sort this out, he says. Honestly, I don't know how. His family is in some deep mess. But then again, Fa's dad seems to hold a lot of powerful people by the tail. Korn continues, we could just say that the evidence is fake. The business is damaged beyond repair, Fa says. Honestly, I have to agree. My dad can only manage to clean up the mess. Actually, you should probably escape like your parents did. Korn sits across from her and asks how he's supposed to do that. His brother was shot. The shooter hasn't been caught yet. How will things go back to normal? Fa gives him a pitying smile. Things can't go back to normal, she says with a shake of her head, especially when Korn realizes his Boothang Toneclaw is the one that shot Great. Korn looks defeated, sad. Tears glisten in his eyes when he asks, "Don't you love me?" Fa gives him a look. The ladies in the audience will understand. A look that cuts right to the heart. "And how about you?" she asks. "Have you ever loved me?" In this one brief moment, I think we see Fa's humanity. She looks almost hurt that she was never really in Korn's heart. Like she thought maybe, but no, he has someone else, clearly. And Fa shouldn't get too attached. At this point, you're no use to me anymore. Being together will only make things worse for me and Dad. You can leave now. Fa, Korn says, a plea, an entreaty asking for help, asking for one last favor. But Fa has done all she can, all she will do. She has to look out for herself and her family, and maybe a tiny corner of her heart. And perhaps this is what she thinks she can do for Korn. I'm not naive enough to think Fa is totally altruistic, but being with Korn truly is of no benefit to her now. What's the harm in cutting him loose? So he can run back to who his heart really wants. Being together will just hurt both of them. And what's the point of that? Leave now, Fa says. If you don't leave, I'll have my guards take you out. Please. Korn leaves, clearly upset, but we linger on Fa's face. Complicated and as emotional as a woman like her can be. I don't know if she ever loved Korn. I don't think she would have let herself, not while she knew about Tonkla. But I think she thinks she could have loved Korn and that they could have been good for each other, at least. And she's losing that before she ever even really had it. There's some type of grief on her face, quiet and private. The only time we ever see behind her impenetrable mask. The only thing she could do for Korn was let him go. So she did. Korn goes back to the gambling building warehouse thing and finds the hidden cabinet/wall. He opens it like his father instructed and uncovers the promised records and a suitcase full of cash, a phone, and some documents. Korn powers on the phone and finds the promised shareholder information. Destroy it, his father had said. Instead, he makes a call. Do you remember the man with the red umbrella who Fa's father unceremoniously took care of? Well, Korn calls that number. His daughter answers. Korn says, I know who killed your father. The perfect son has gone rogue. His father isn't around to hold anything over his head anymore. He's not even in the country. For the first time in his life, Korn has the power. He has control, and he's going to wield it like he'll never get another chance, which very well might be the case. The scene changes to the police station, with Wynn detailing to the assembled police that Tonkla must have somehow learned that Tidal killed his brother, so he staged Tidal's death to look like Dome's. The chief clearly knows that Wynn leaked the information, but doesn't mention it for now. The chief says they need to make an arrest as soon as possible. Wynn looks haunted. The scene changes to what must be Korn's bedroom. He's clearly going through it and tries to call Tonkla. It doesn't go through. Korn sends a text responding to the wall of missed calls. Where are you, Tonkla? Can we meet up today? Korn just happens to have the news on, and they're talking about the case of Tidal's death. They say the DNA on the murder weapon matches Tonkla. Korn stares at the news in horror. His phone lights up. Tonkla sent him a photo of a red cat collar. A bat signal of some kind, I suppose, since Korn takes off. He goes back to the cat's grave, looking around in the dark for any sign of his beloved. Korn! Tonkla shouts his name. They run towards each other and reunite with a kiss, backlit by a floodlight in the middle of the dark, a shining beam of hope in the night. Technically, they could totally be together now, besides the murder charge. Did you see the news? Tonkla asks. Yes. I killed someone, Tonkla says, overcome. Korn is holding him close, caressing his hair. They're both crying. Revenge for Dome, right? Korn says. Tonkla nods. I'm sorry, Tonkla, Korn says. I'm sorry for not being there when Dome died. You don't need to be afraid. I'll help you escape. Korn pulls Tonkla in and they hug, inseparably tight. At this point, Korn obviously doesn't know Tonkla shot great, and Tonkla isn't telling. The scene returns to the police with a cop telling Win someone reported seeing Tonkla at a market with another man helping him escape, and they reviewed the CCTV footage to confirm it. Win must know who it is. He knows about Korn, who Tonkla went to when he was in trouble, of course. Why would Korn go to Win, a cop trying to hunt him down? Win is overcome with rage, taking a moment to internalize the information. Then he sends his units out and checks his gun, ensuring there's bullets in the chamber before he follows. The scene changes to Korn's apartment where he reassures Tonkla they'll be fine, except then he sees the cops pulling up into the alley outside his apartment. Korn shouts for them to leave. Tonkla is quick to his feet and they run. They escape. The cops inform Win, who follows their route. Note, both Win and Korn have guns, and Tonkla has an edge of murderous intent. They run under a bridge and are stopped by some homeless people who think that they're a threat or they're to cause mischief or whatever, which is fair, but that means they can't keep running and Win catches up. The assembled homeless people see Win, the cop, and they're like, we're out, but it's too late. Win has now cornered Korn and Tonkla. He holds a gun on them, telling Tonkla to surrender. Korn steps in front of Tonkla. Win is near tears. Honestly, this man should not be on this case, but what's he going to do? Tell his boss that he slept with the guy who killed the chief's son? I think not. Are you disappointed in me? Win asks. Is that why you did this? Win, did you ever consider not everything is about you? Like, yes, you failed to bring Dome to justice, but Tonkla has his own demons to fight and a track record of getting even. Korn looks confused, and we see Tonkla make a choice. No more time to play innocent. He's gone for the jugular in every fight he's ever been in. Just because Win is opposite his fangs won't make his bite any less sharp. You didn't keep your promise to me, Tonkla says. I'm sorry, Win replies. Korn is looking between them like he's watching a tragic tennis match, ping-ponging around but also almost crying. Win continues, it's not easy, you know. Yes, Tonkla does know. He knows just how little the police have ever helped him and how easy it is to just do one little push. Tonkla laughs. It is easy, he says. I did it, and faster than you. Those two have finally paid for it. Ooh, two. Not just title. Is Tonkla about to admit in front of Korn that he shot Korn's little brother? That he's the reason they can't run? They're stuck in a country that's hunting them, and Great is fighting for his life on a hospital table. Not that Great is so innocent either. No, he didn't want Title to kill Dome, but he also helped him stash the body and never told anyone anything. In the US, at least, that's accessory to murder. Korn is basically crying now, his eyes shining like diamonds in the dim light of the bridge. What do you mean, Tonkla? Those two? Almost like he knows, like he's begging Tonkla not to say it. The other guy who killed Dome was Great, and the person who shot Great was me. Tonkla looks gutted, like he'd rather admit anything else, but Korn is shattered. He backs away from Tonkla, disbelief and devastation written all over his face. Tonkla continues, while you were gone, I cheated on you. He glances at Win, and Korn can put the pieces together. Tonkla seems to be done making choices. He's done what he planned. He's all alone in the world. Dome is dead. He knows he can't keep Korn, no matter how much he wants to. So why not light all the matches and see what blows? And I do wonder if this was almost a mutually assured destruction. If maybe he didn't know that Win would be able to find him, but he maybe hoped it. Maybe thinking that they weren't going to be able to escape. Maybe he didn't even want to escape. Maybe he wanted Korn to know the truth, and this was what was going to push that knowledge to light. I'm not saying that Tongkla wants what happens next to happen, but maybe a little bit of him did. Maybe a little bit of him was thinking of revenge. Maybe that he just didn't want to keep living with himself in this situation that he was in. I honestly don't know. I would really like to know everybody's thoughts on this whole sequence in the comments. I am fighting not to cry right now. I cried watching the episode at this part. Anyway, let's keep going. Korn starts laughing. The track is silent with music over it. Tongkla is sad but accepting. He's made his bed and he's willing to lie in it. Wen is furious and sad. Gun still trained on them. In a rush, Korn, he's kind of laughing. He turns back to Tongkla. He looks over at Wen. Rage just takes over his face. And in a flash, he grabs his gun to point it at Wen. Tongkla grabs his arm, shouting, "Korn, don't." In a flurry, a shot rings out. Tongkla falls, a bullet right to the heart. He was dead before he hit the ground. Wen is shocked, mouth hanging open. Korn is horrified, crouching over the corpse of his beloved. CPR? Blood soaks his hands. He cradles Tongkla in his arms. I really thought I was going to be able to get through this part without crying. I cried a lot when I watched it, but I thought I was going to be able to talk about it, but here we are. Okay. He cradles Tongkla in his arms, sobbing over his body. They finally could have been together. I truly wonder if Korn could have forgiven Tongkla for his transgressions, but maybe. I mean, he wasn't trying to shoot Tongkla, he was trying to shoot Win. They finally had a chance, and it was taken in a flash, an instant, too quick to even understand until it was over. And listen, I know that none of these characters are perfect people. None of them are angels who've never done anything wrong, but like, this show does a really good job of making you like them. Obviously, that's what shows do. And like knowing Tongkla's past and how much he struggled and the things that he went through, I just like really wanted him to be happy and he never gets to be. I really like my makeup, so I am trying so hard not to let any tears fall. I don't know if I can make it through the next part without crying more, but I'll try. The music gets dark, tense, stranger than before. There's a ringing in the air, and I'm instantly on edge. Korn is not in a good place. He takes his gun from where it had fallen, and my whole body just like bunched up. He brings the silver automatic to his head. The music swells, and "Let's run away together," Korn says. The screen is black. The scene comes back in. He and Tongkla lay in his apartment after Tongkla's first time. Tongkla looks at Korn in disbelief. "You mean right now?" "Yes, right now." I read the next line of my script. An alternate reality, their own dreamscape in the nanoseconds between the bullet entering Okay, I need to go get a tissue. I have cried so much this weekend between this episode. I watched what episode? I think it was episode 7 of Hidden Love, the Chinese drama. And this episode didn't help. Okay, I'm going to try so hard to get through this. I promise I'm really trying. Is this an alternate reality? Their own 4 minutes dreamscape, playing out in the nanoseconds between the bullet entering their vital organs and death. What if they had run? What if Korn hadn't tried to be the perfect son, to get control and power like he thought he had to before he lives the life he wanted? What if he said no to the trappings, to the life laid out for him, to live the life he really wanted with the person that he really wanted to live it with? It would have been harder without his parents' money, but look where chasing that got them. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore, Korn continues. I'm not afraid anymore, Korn continues. I want to be with you forever. Okay. Okay, I did it. Okay. We get a close up on Korn's bloody watch from our timeline. It rushes towards 9 p.m. When the second hand hits, it slows back to normal time. They're 4 minutes over. They're 4 minutes over in a snap, faster than a snap, before they even knew it was happening. No second chances, no do overs, just the end. Unless you want to think about maybe like that is their dream state and they don't wake up from it. And maybe that's where their like consciousnesses are. I guess that's a more hopeful way of thinking about it. The camera pans out to their corpses, laying together on the street. Korn's arm is under Tonkla's head, just like his head was laid on Korn's arm on the bed. But instead of gazing at each other, whispering their love and hopes and dreams, their eyes stare lifelessly upward at the underside of a dark, dank bridge. One cries as the cops rush in, and so did I, clearly. Oh my god, I can do this. That was the really sad part that made me cry. I kind of managed it through the rest of the episode. Okay. Okay. The scene changes to time at a temple, I think. He's praying, making merit. I'm not sure what the correct terms are. Please forgive me. Correct me in the comments if you know better. I am not an expert on Buddhism. It's a ceremony for his grandmother, I think. Her photo is propped up on a little glass dish surrounded by really cute tiny flowers. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I actually kept crying at this part. So just bear with me. We're going to try and make it through together. Time is very gorgeous and very sad. It's sad because, yes, he knew his grandmother was old and not well. He had less time left with her than he ever wanted to think about, but she was ripped away from him. She didn't go naturally. She went violently, afraid and in pain, even if it was brief. There's a tragedy to that, to a soft, gentle death ripped away from a kind old lady who only deserved peace in her final moments. Me and Time were both still crying. He looks over at another dish, holding the photos of Korn and Tonkla. Who would be grieving them next to him but Great? Great? Time asks, pulling Great out of his reverie. I'll take care of it. I can't imagine the inner craziness it was for Great to realize the guy who shot him was the love of his brother's life, to the point that they died together, that Korn chose to end his own life rather than continue on without Tonkla. In a poignant moment, Great takes his lighter out of his pocket and lays it on the dish. Take it, he says, trying to smile and speak steadily through a throat choked with tears. I quit for you. Much like me, Great is overcome with emotion, trying not to cry so he can say his piece to his brother. Just like me, typing through my tears to write this script and now trying to relay my script through tears. Don't worry about me, Tonkla continues. Be happy with the one you love. Even through his grief, he manages a little smile. Great loves his brother, and even if it's confusing, even if he doesn't understand, Tonkla made his brother happy, and he hopes they get to be together, maybe in a kinder version of reality. The scene changes to Time knocking on Den's office door. Dr. Time, Den shouts, overjoyed as Time walks in with Great. Then in English, welcome back. It's a bit less sad from this point, so I need to dry my tears. What, you're still not finished? Time asks. Well, I'm waiting to interview you in Great, Den says. Duh. So the sample group will increase. Time and Great are precious, wearing what I refuse to believe is anything but couple outfits. Time gently leads Great into the room and even pulls out Great's chair for him. They have some small talk, making jokes and getting comfortable before another knock at the door heralds the arrival of Lukwa, who thought Den was already done for the day. Finally, Great and Lukwa meet. Time looks very curious at her entry. Great's just sitting there with a pleasantly accepting expression, like Den could start to juggle on a unicycle and he'd just roll with it as part of the research study. But Time sees how sweet Den is to Lukwa and gets a knowing look on his face. He quickly communicates with some mouthed words and hand gestures to Great, who picks up the connotation quickly, especially since Den stands up and lets Lukwa sit in his doctor chair. Den introduces Lukwa, and we get confirmation they're dating because Den introduces her as my darling Lukwa. He calls her Wa, which is super cute. He says he just needs to interview his friends and then they can go get lunch. Lukwa agrees, then finally takes a good, long look at Great. Great looks back, his head tilted, like he's trying to place Lukwa. Have you met before? Den asks. They both look very hard at each other. At the art exhibition, Lukwa says. I'm not going to lie, I was mildly frustrated at the thought of the whole 4 minutes thing being an art exhibition, but it's better than I imagined. Just bear with me. Great says yes, that's where they met. And we see the familiar scene. The brain scans on the wall, the bed, the curtain, the 4 minute timer. The voice saying the brain can last 4 minutes without oxygen. Lukwa is already there. Great is going up some stairs, complaining that he can't find the secret bar that he's trying to go to. He's on the phone with Tidal, complaining. The timer starts. 4 minutes. Great walks in, accidentally, but he's enraptured. It's a beautifully strange space, immediately immersive. We hear the woman speak the familiar words about what happens during those 4 minutes. He and Lukwa make eye contact, nodding at each other as they take in the exhibition. I'll pick up where the voiceover says, we might want to make new decisions to fix old mistakes. The countdown is in the last 10 seconds. For a final, peaceful mind, I will grant the ability to see the future for 4 minutes to you. The countdown finishes. The lights go out and then the overhead lights come back on. A woman in white walks out, telling them the exhibition starts again in half an hour. She asks them how it was. Great says that he got lost and leaves quickly. Lukwa watches him go. She then tells the woman it was amazing, and the woman says she's glad Lukwa enjoyed it. Lukwa walks away. The woman watches her go with too much knowledge in her eyes. She looks after them both at their exit with anticipation, worry, maybe a tinge of fear or hope. Were her words a mere exhibition, mere artistry, or were they more? A prophecy? A spell? A benediction? Would it have been anyone, or were they called? Was Great getting lost merely an accident, or was his soul pulled to the exhibition? I personally believe it was fate. Lukwa walks out. We see Great on the landing below her, complaining again on the phone to Tidal that he can't find the bar and that Tidal should come and get him. Luqua begins her own descent but slowly stops, a hand clutching her chest. She falls, security shouting for an ambulance. Great looks back but ultimately leaves and goes off to find Tidal, making the wrong, selfish choice like the one that sets him on this path. Whoever the woman in the art exhibition was, God, an angel, a spirit, a grim reaper, she called Great and Luqua, maybe for some reason, maybe for no reason. Maybe they were extraordinary in no way, but by being purely ordinary. Every human is unique and individual, so are we not all ordinary? If we're all special, are any of us? Everyone has regrets. Everyone has decisions they would make differently if they could make them again. These two were bestowed a gift by the woman in white, whether they wanted it or not. Then we're back in the present, with Great as a waiter in a Japanese restaurant. He's charming and handsome, a far cry from the devil may care rich boy we met in the beginning of episode 1. He mops after everyone is gone, bathed in gorgeous neon blue and purple. Neon wings frame him for just a moment. Is he an angel? Is this second chance meant for something more? Is he supposed to pass along the message he learned that life happens once and it happens fast? Make decisions you won't regret because you can't go back and make them again. Live your life for you. Live your life authentically. And only then can you truly say you lived a life with no regret. Great's phone rings. It's his mom. And I remember in this moment that she was not actually killed by the shooter. That was a different timeline, and she is alive and well. Anyway, she asks after Great and then tells him to go get the money from the warehouse so he doesn't have to struggle. He listens, but clearly it's hard not to argue back. He's wreathed again by the angel wings, perhaps a fallen angel, struggling his way back to heaven. The mom continues to say that some government official said that he'd help the mom and the dad get back into Thailand, but she wants Great to give him some of the money from the warehouse. Great looks deeply troubled and conflicted. This is the life he left behind. He's making an honest, if modest, living, but he still loves his mother and understands her life had its own struggles. You want me to go by myself? Great asks. His mother says yes. And with his help, they'll win their case and everything will go back to the way it was. Even though every inch of his face says Great doesn't want anything to go back to the way it was, he agrees quickly and hangs up the call. The scene changes to Great and Time eating by the river, the same place they ate in the original timeline when Time blackmailed Great. Time says he's looking for evidence that Fa's dad killed his grandma and hopes it'll eventually lead to evidence that he also killed Time's parents. Great looks worried and Time smiles and says, but this time I'll stay calm, not impulsive and making assumptions like last time. Last time, is he referring to their 4 minutes or is he referring to in the original timeline when he blackmails Great? Great gazes down at his food, not reassured, or maybe still thinking about the call with his mother. Time clues into something and asks, are you okay, Great? We don't know what he said because the scene changes to Great giving over a big bag of cash to some government official. He says he's clearing the way for Great's parents to return and to give him about a week for them to be able to come back, and he'll be able to also clear their name on their case. It seemed off for Great to do something like this. The vibe is weird. When the official walks away, Great stirs his tea and the light catches his spoon, casting strings of gold into the liquid. Great goes into the stairwell and meets with a mysterious man in all black, mask and hat included. He takes a pen out of his jacket and solemnly hands it to the figure. Evidence? Did he record the official to put him away, to end his corruption, even if it would mean the end of any hope his parents had of returning to Thailand? We go back to the dinner with Time by the river, and I guess that was Great detailing his plan because Time says, you mean you won't let your parents return to Thailand? Great nods. Right. If they return, they'll do anything to survive, end up doing the same business. They can't escape it, causing trouble for others. And about the money, Time asks. Let the police take it. I don't want it. Illegal money. Time worries that Great may get into trouble or have issues. I'm not sure if he means the situation will cause him trouble or he might run into trouble one day and the money would be helpful. Great just says, since I had the 4 minutes experience, You know what I'm afraid of the most? Time smiles. What? Unresolved feelings when you approach death. Meaning, Great doesn't care. Trouble or no, he couldn't live with himself if he did what his mom asked. He doesn't want to live a life funded by illegal, dirty money. He has to make choices he can live with today, or risk the end coming at him too fast with too many regrets, like KornTonkla. The scene changes with the government official exiting the elevator to angry reporters, asking how he's involved with the gambling ring, and two police officers show up, one of whom's eyes look eerily familiar to the figure in black that Great gave the pen to. Then we see Win in his office, looking at his illicit photo of Tonkla on his phone. He gets called to Warit Fozdad's location, and when he arrives, it's to a body being carried out. He went missing for over a month because he was held here, Win asks, here being a dingy looking bare warehouse. I think so, sir, the cop on the scene says. Earlier, someone reported loud, wailing screams coming from this area. The patrol came in to check the building and found the general lying on the floor. Do we have the person responsible? Wynn asks. Not yet, the cop says. It seems the suspect escaped before we arrived, but this company has been closed since Mr. Wanchai's death. Wanchai, the man with the red umbrella that Warit took care of. Remember the call Korn made before he went on his final run with Tonkla to Wanchai's daughter? Perhaps she finally exacted her revenge. They suspect a former employee or one of Wanchai's family members. Wen recalls they still haven't caught the person who killed Wanchai. Maybe Wen puts the pieces together as he gazes at the scene. Justice in a perfect world is the answer achievable through the legal system, but their world is far from perfect. Their system couldn't catch Wanchai's killer, couldn't catch Warit, couldn't get justice for Dome. But justice was served, if not by their hands. The scene changes to Time being told the patient is in the red zone. He enters the curtained area, closing it off. Turns out, Warit isn't dead, just in critical condition, and now under the total mercy of Dr. Time, whose parents and grandma he killed. On top of surely many more, Warit is a man none would miss, who did nothing but harm. Warit has a breathing tube in and a neck brace and uncountable bruises and other physical injuries. His breathing and heart rate picks up when he sees Time's face. Obviously, they recognize each other. We revisit the moment Time saw his granny die via FaceTime. Warit's heart is going haywire. Time stares down at Warit, face like an active volcano. Without preamble, without hesitation, Time reaches out and disconnects Warit's oxygen line. One lonely tear falls down his face. An almost anticlimactic end for such a villain. A man responsible for such bombastic violence to die so easily. Tonkla said it was easy, and who knows that better than a doctor? And if you come across Warit again, what will you do? Time asks. We're back at the dinner by the river. Are these cutscenes actually happening? I think they are, because we see Win's part in Times mostly and the aftermath of Greats. Yes, they could be visions or fantasies, but I'm going to believe they're real because Time is a good man. I genuinely believe he is, but men can be pushed to the limit. I'll kill him, Time says simply. Revenge my grandma. Is revenge really a good idea? Time asks. He's entirely changed by his 4 minutes experience. It's obvious. And Time is too, but not in the same way. There are core parts of us that we saw in the diverging timelines. Some things are such integral parts of who we are. And Time's grandma was that to him. He can't let her death stand. And for someone like Warit, isn't it simply an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object? Time looks mildly disturbed and offended that Great doesn't want him to get revenge. Just hypothetically speaking, Great continues, if you found Warit dying, would you help him? Another integral part of Time, his oath as a physician. My brief research doesn't show any conclusive evidence if Thai doctors take the Hippocratic Oath or not. The vow doctors in the West take to do no harm, etc., etc. But it seems they do have some kind of Buddhist teachings woven into their education to a similar effect about acting purely, doing no harm to sentient beings, etc., etc. Actively killing Wari would go directly against the long years of training Time has had to become a doctor. And Time is a doctor. Deep down, it's a huge part of who he is. But family and love live at the deepest core of our brains, close to our basest human instincts, deeper than things like oaths or jobs or society's rules. But Time just smiles. Wait, is this the medical ethics exam? Great smiles, tiny but sincere. Yes. Time laughs and doesn't answer. So, are you going to help? Great presses. Time thinks, then says, I don't know. Honest. How can he know? Until the moment presents itself, it's pointless to consider. Great returns to his food, and with his boyfriend's eyes off of him, Time's face looks haunted. Would he help Warit? Or would he? The scene changes back to the hospital room, Warit on the table behind the curtain. The breathing tube is attached, and Nurse B walks in on Time observing the patient. Time says to please set up the OR and get him an order form. Nurse B leaves. So maybe the visions aren't true. Maybe this is all theoretical. Or it's a type of vision, a what if playing out for us to see. I still believe that this is true. I believe this is the true timeline that he takes. That's just my personal belief. You don't have to worry, Time says, once he and Warit are alone. I've assessed, and you will survive. He goes on to say, Warit will be disabled and need daily assistance for basic tasks for the rest of his life. So, is Warit really that injured? Or will Time make him that injured, keeping the letter of his oath, of his morality? If not the spirit, we don't get an answer. As Time leaves, Fa rushes in, crying over her father. Time watches for a moment. They're family, just like he and his grandma were. No matter what else is true about him, Warit is not 100% a monster all the time. Time leaves the area. We see something dangling in the air. I don't know what this is supposed to be. If anyone can tell me, please let me know. We go back to Win leaving the police station. Great is waiting outside for him. Win recognizes Great as Korn's brother and asks what he's doing there. I want to take responsibility for what I've done, Great says. That night, when Dome was killed, I was there as well. The scene changes to the river. Time and Great are rowing on a boat, talking about the case. Great worries they won't have much more time together. Time says that Great is a good person and the courts will be lenient with him, and that nothing that happened that night was his fault. They look out over the river, Dome's grave, the lifeblood of their city. Rebirth. Time says Great must have been there before since he went there in the 4 minutes. Now, I'm confused because I don't recognize this place. I don't recall either of them being on a canoe during the 4 minutes experience. And Great starts to freak out and says that no, he just drove there randomly, but the place actually exists. How could I know this place during the 4 minutes? Great asks. Great looks at his watch and scoots closer to Time so they can both look. They're frantically freaked out. The time? 11:04. They watch with bated breath. Is it frozen? Will the time turn? It does, right on time to 11:05. I'm still confused. Are they talking about Great driving them to the lake or the river now in this timeline? And how did he know it existed? Or did they go there in the 4 minutes? And I was just like not paying attention despite scripting every moment of this show for several weeks. I was very confused at this part. They sigh in relief when the watch ticks, collapsing backwards. They were both worried. For a moment, they were still in the 4 minutes. They lay in the canoe together, kissing lazily in the sun, as the camera pans out and an acoustic version of Why Don't You Stay plays. The episode ends. And seriously, don't talk to me. I love Why Don't You Stay. It was on my Spotify Wrapped the year it came out. I sang it all the time. Jeff Satter has such a beautifully amazing voice. I don't know if he's the one singing it here, but like I'm literally obsessed with that song. It like has such a special place in my heart. When it started playing, my heart like clenched. So that's it. The show is over. 4 minutes is over. And what a ride it was. I really recommend, if you guys are not active on Tumblr, going on Tumblr and reading the posts people post about this show, because people are so insightful and intelligent and they have such good takes. A lot of that is some stuff that has woven into my videos as well. The parallels that people draw and things like that, like, people are so smart and they're so clever. My overall thoughts, I did really enjoy the show. I did have points of frustration, especially in the final few episodes, where there was a lot of moments of things just happening like for the plot, like because they have to happen this way, they're going to happen this way, even if they didn't make sense to me. Like, the characters would make decisions that I didn't think the characters would make because it needed to happen that way for the plot of the show to go the way that the writer wanted. And she's not the only person that does this. That's extremely common. But because it doesn't really happen in the earlier episodes at all, it kind of made me sad that it was happening later, because I was like, girl, like, you're better than this. Like, I've seen you do such amazing things. Why are you resorting to this now? But overall, it was beautifully written, beautifully directed. The show, it was just beautifully shot as well. The cinematography was beautiful. Obviously, I'm here discussing all of the imagery and allusions and motifs and themes, and I am obsessed. It was clearly very well thought out. What did you guys think of, I guess, the message of the show? I guess the whole point is like, live a life with no regrets, like, make choices that you can live with in the moment, because you don't know when it will be the final choice that you ever get to make. And do you really want to look back on your life and realize that you've never actually lived the life that you wanted? Like, Korn and Tonkla never got to live their life together authentically, and it was over before they really could try again. And Time and Great get a second chance, which is awesome and sweet, and I'm happy that they do. And, they're getting to make the right choices, or at least the right enough choices that they can. And I think that's the thing too, is the choice you can live with is not always the most morally correct choice. Like Time with Wari, I genuinely believe that Wari could have been saved and been okay. I genuinely think that Time does something to him to make him disabled for life. And I think that's his revenge. That's my personal belief on the matter. Would love to know what y'all think about that. And obviously, I knew Win was not going to have a happy ending, and he doesn't. But you know what? He's alive still, and he gets to go and maybe find somebody else to fall in love with that is not as deeply emotionally damaged as Tonkla is as a person. And don't get it twisted, I love Tonkla. I love my baby Tonkla. He was one of my favorite characters. And his and Korn's storyline, obviously, I sobbed. I was not well. But the end of their story, I think, makes sense. I think they needed to juxtapose Great and Time with another couple. And I think that that was Korn and Tonkla. Great and Time do get a second chance, which is super rare. And they, actively decide that they're going to live a life that they won't regret. If the end comes tomorrow, they want to look back and realize that their choices are choices that they would not make differently if they could. And we have to parallel that with Korn and Tonkla, who almost exclusively make decisions that they wish that they could take back, especially Korn. I'm not so sure about Tonkla. I don't know if he would make different decisions if he could, but I think he would maybe be more careful of his brother, treasure his brother more. I can't say he would make a different decision with Tidal if he could. I think maybe, if only to avoid how their lives end, but getting justice for his brother is not something that I think he would undo if he could. I think maybe he would avoid getting so close to Win so he could avoid that. But then it's through Win that he learns about Tidal. So would he? I don't know. Korn, I do think, would actively make many different choices. I think that's what that vision that we see when they both die is him getting that 4 minutes experience to relive it. Like, he sees maybe where their life would go. And in his little dreamscape, he gets to say, like, no, let's run away together now. We don't need to wait for money or for me to get powerful. Like, let's just go and be together. And I think that that's kind of what that moment is for them. And as sad as it is, clearly I cried so much. I liked it. I think it made sense. I don't think that this show was ever going to have a 100% happy ending. It was going to be bittersweet. There was going to be loss because this show, it talks about very real situations and scenarios that could happen. And that there are very real consequences for our actions. Not everybody gets a magical do-over. Not everybody gets to turn the sand glass back over and try again. For the rest of us in the world, you get to make your choices one time and you have to deal with the consequences. I also did love Great turning a new leaf and kind of being his most ethical self, I guess. Great seems a lot more at peace at the end of the series than we maybe ever see him at any other point in the show. He seems happy, he seems peaceful. Not only his life is peaceful, but like his inner self is peaceful. I think in a way that he never had before, because I really think he learned his lesson in the 4 minutes experience that, like, before he was making choices he didn't like, but he thought he didn't have a choice, or he thought, like, oh, it's just the easiest thing to do if I do this. But he's seen the consequences now of making the easy choice that he doesn't like, instead of making the difficult choice that he actually maybe wants to do, and realizing that sometimes you can't go with the flow. Sometimes you have to rock the boat. And if you want to live with yourself when the end of your life comes, that sounds like an oxymoron, but if you want to get to the end and look back and think, yes, this is my life and I'm proud and I made choices that I would not change, then Great knows that you have to live that every single day, and that it's not always the easy choice, and you will have to ruffle feathers and rock the boat and do things that are hard, but he's at peace in his heart, I think, because he's doing what he believes to be right. And even time, he's not making the, like I said, most lawful, ethical choices, but he's making the choices that he can live with at the end of the day. Because no, I don't think that he would outright kill Warid, especially not in his capacity as a doctor. If they met in a dark alley and it was like a shootout situation, I can't speak to that. But in his capacity as a doctor, I do not think that time would do that. But I do think he would get revenge in his own way and know that, yes, this man gets to live where his grandmother is dead, but his grandmother is at peace and no longer in pain and no longer sick. And Warit will live the rest of his life sick and in pain and knowing everything that he has lost. And he can't accuse time of anything, because why on earth would time have a vendetta against him? What's the reasoning to think that time would do something like that to you? It's also in the US basically impossible to win a malpractice case. I cannot speak to Thailand's legal system, but I don't know if it's easy anywhere to successfully win a malpractice suit. So I don't even know if Warit would try, especially if Great makes it his personal life mission to go around and be a police informant on all of the people that his parents worked with. But yes, overall, I did love the show. I thought it was so beautiful. I thought Bible and Jess did an amazing, amazing job. The whole cast did an amazing job. And this was my first introduction to Fuais. Fuais. Again, very sorry. I do not know how to pronounce his name. But I have not seen him in anything else. I didn't watch like Dead Friend Forever or anything. I don't even know if he was in it. But he was excellent. I thought he did a very good job. I know he's young. I think he's just 18. And to take on such a role, such an emotional, heavy, difficult role at such a young age, I think is very impressive. And I think that the show did a very good job making everybody sympathetic. I think I say that in an earlier video, and I agree through to the end. Again, like I say, these characters are not perfect. They do not make perfect choices. Not even time, not when not even great, though he, I think, is probably the most ethical by the end, making the most ethical choices. But the show does such an amazing job showing you the full spectrum of their humanity, their good and their bad sides, that you understand why they do what they do. You sympathize with their feelings on the matter. Again, even if you would not make the same choice, you understand why they did. And you can't help but feel in your heart a little bad for them. Like, I was obviously, Tonkla is not a good person. He does lots of very bad things, but I'm sobbing for him at the end. I'm still so sad for him. Like, I wanted him to be happy, even though I didn't think that that was really ever going to be possible because of all the things that he did. I desperately wanted it to be true. And I think that that can be hard. It can be hard to make an audience sympathize with people like that. And especially when you see it, you don't just like read about it in a book. You see all of the actions that these people do. And this show so beautifully shows everybody's humanity. Even the parents, I think, like, I'm not saying that I like love them as characters, but especially the mom, you understand her. Like, again, even if you would not make her choices, you understand why she made them. And that is not easy to do, my friends. And this show did it expertly. I would absolutely recommend this show to others. I don't know if I would ever watch it again. I'm not a big rewatcher. I don't really rewatch shows because I'm constantly watching new things for, content and TikTok and YouTube. I don't really have time to rewatch things very often. So me saying I wouldn't rewatch it is not necessarily like saying anything about it. I don't rewatch most things. As always, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Please leave your thoughts below. Please, I want to hear everything. I feel like I'm missing so much. I feel like there's so many layers to this that I probably missed that I want to hear about from you guys. And as always, please like and subscribe to this channel if you have enjoyed my series on 4 minutes. I loved making it, and I loved getting to chat with you guys all in the comments throughout this experience. And please follow me on my other social medias. I would love to hear from all of you there. And that completes my series on my deep dive of 4 minutes. And that is all for today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Tears glisten, is it? And if you come across the voice, I'll pick up who fought. Korn recalls that Tonkla must have